Welcome to the WWE Podcast, your place for the most passionate wrestling analysis on the web.
Just turn Roman heel. What is WWE waiting for?
When other wrestling podcasts put you to sleep, you can count on the WWE Podcast to keep you engaged and asking for more.
I've been watching wrestling for over 20 years, and that was one of the best matches I've ever seen.
This is unlike any other wrestling analysis. So without any further delay, let's get the show started right now.
Hey guys, welcome to the WWE Podcast. And it is Sunday, October 27th, 2019. Thank you so much again for joining me. It is a exciting show because I have Anthony DiMarco, one of my co-hosts, on the show with me today to discuss everything that is WWE from this week, from the Cain Velasquez and Brock Lesnar match to the Bayley turning heel, the Seth and Fiend, a little bit of the draft, a little bit of Hell in a Cell from the disaster that was, Shorty G, Kofi's reaction to losing the championship, and of course we get into the entire card of Crown Jewel in Saudi Arabia that is coming this Thursday. Weird day, right? Weird day for wrestling. This Thursday in Saudi Arabia for the Crown Jewel event, which has 8 matches on it. No women, because Saudi Arabia just has no interest in seeing women compete on any kind of professional stage in the country. But that's a whole other topic. But anyway, it should be, you know what, like, I know a lot of people are crapping on this show. A lot of people are saying that this is going to be a show that's going to be a complete disaster, that, oh my God, the match is going to be awful. And, I understand some of those arguments. I totally understand why people think that Braun Strowman and Tyson Fury is going to wet the bed, so to speak. I understand why people think that Cain Velasquez is going to be exposed, and rightfully so. And I'm not saying that both matches are going to be classics by any means. But if they're smart, and I believe they are, WWE and all parties involved, you hide your weaknesses and magnify your strengths. So if Cain Velasquez is piss poor on in-ring psychology, stick to the basics. Let Brock Lesnar do most of the movements and do most of the match and carry the weight of that on his back. Same with Braun Strowman and Tyson Fury. There's ways to get around that. You don't have Tyson Fury try to be something he's not. And again, I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir if WWE is listening, but I don't expect a disaster of a match, but you have to understand these are attraction matches. These are not matches in which you're seeing Ricochet versus Finn Balor or AJ Styles and Buddy Murphy. This is going to be what it is. And you can't expect what you normally deem as a 5-star match in 2019 from these folks. So, anyway, it's a really good conversation. I think you'll enjoy it. And speaking of something I think you'll enjoy, and guys, this one's for you. Not the ladies, but the guys out there. I really got to just take a moment to talk to you about something. And it's something called manscaping. You guys know what that is, right? Instead of landscaping, we all know what landscaping is, but what do men do to landscape themselves, right? Well, you kind of trim yourself up down there, right? I mean, that's kind of what you do when you talk about manscaping. Well, when you're down there making sure things are good and smooth, there's a lot of accidents that can happen, right? And you want to avoid those. Well, those are a thing of the past. And I have manscaped.com to thank for that. Trust me, guys. I mean, this is kind of a sensitive topic, but let's be real about this. I mean, this is something that you need to do if you want to make sure that your ladies out there are appreciating the effort you're putting into making sure that area of your body is very well groomed and smells nice, and that the trimmer you're using isn't the same one you use for your face, and that the razor you use isn't going to nick you. That would not be fun. Trust me, I've had issues with that in the past. No longer. I go to manscaped.com because they not only have those razors and stuff, but they also have ball deodorant. That's a real thing. I know that you're probably chuckling, but that's a real thing. And trust me when I say that will be beneficial for you if you have a significant other. I'll just leave it at that. They've also got hair and body wash. They've even got ball toner. Yeah, ball toner. I'm serious. They do. And they've even got a newspaper for Manscaped Daily News. It's really entertaining. They've got some great stories in there. Trust me, Manscaped's got you covered A to Z. I've been using their products for a couple of weeks now, and they really have some awesome stuff, including including cologne, which I've used, and my wife actually says, she's like, what is that? It's very subtle but nice. They've got some cologne that's not overpowering. It's not like Polo or whatever, which I actually used to wear. No longer. They've got some really, really great stuff. It's quality. The razor they have has a weight to it. It's not those cheap plastic razors you find at the store. It's got one blade, and if you turn it the wrong direction, it's going to slice you. This has got just the most amazing blade I've ever used in my life, and you want to make sure it's high quality and it's not going to nick you, especially where you're going to be, trimming yourself up. So guys, seriously, check that out. And here's a deal for you. What you can do is head to manscaped.com. You can get free shipping and 20% off. You just have to use the promo code WWEPOD. That's one word, WWEPOD at manscaped.com. And you'll get 20% off of free shipping if you use that code of WWEPOD. You can join the other dudes helping themselves with Manscaped with a special offer just for you guys. You get 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. That's right. Manscaped is offering WWE podcast listeners 20% off and free shipping with WWE Pod. You won't get that if you don't put that in. So go get yours today, guys. I'm serious. I've got all the products in my bathroom. It is probably the best man-based website I've used, especially for something like this. Name another organization that's got something like this, right? Go to manscaped.com and use promo code WWEPOD. Again, go to manscaped.com, use promo code WWEPOD to get 20% off and free shipping, guys. I know it's a little bit of a sensitive topic, guys, but trust me, you will thank me and your significant other will thank you. So head on over to manscaped.com and get your 20% off and free shipping today. Alrighty, guys. Well, one other thing I'd like to note before we get going on the conversation with Anthony, I know many of you have mentioned that some of my guests have audio that is way higher or way lower than me. So I was not aware of this, and when I play it back, it didn't seem like an issue to me, but I did notice a couple of episodes in which that was the case. So I'm going to be keeping a much more watchful eye on that. I do apologize if you're turning your volume way up and way down, and oh my God, it blasts you out of the water, and then you have to go, what did he just say? He's whispering. I get it. So my apologies. I'll be more mindful of that as I move forward, as everyone has different connections and the post-editing is not the same for every host I have, co-host I have. So my apologies to those of you that have sent me notes, and it's been a few of you. It's not just, one or two. So my apologies. You can also head on over to patreon.com. I'm running a really, really big special right now on patreon.com. If you want to get on the show, all you have to do is either A, if you're an existing patron, just upgrade your tier to any tier you want, or if you haven't joined the show at all and you're brand new, head on over to patreon.com/WWE podcast, and the tiers start at $1. For $1, you'll be able to get on the show. That's a value of $50. I'm only doing this for a very limited time. It's ending soon. I really do mean that. It's a real thing. Like, I'm not doing this for much longer. So if you've been thinking about it and maybe, hey, I don't know, these commercials are a pain in the neck, head on over to patreon.com/WWE podcast. You can get yourself on the show, or you can send me a whole list of things you want me to talk about on the show, or just come on for 10, 15 minutes, whatever it may be. But that's going to be a deal I'm running, and special offer only for a very limited amount of time. It's only got a few days left. So head on over there. But guys, let me just get to it. Let me just get to this conversation with Anthony. I think you're going to enjoy it. As always, guys, I'll be back Tuesday from Raw Review. Wednesday, I'll be back with Wrestling Nostalgia, and then back on Saturday with Ashley. Ashley will be back on Saturday to discuss the entire week of WWE and the Crown Jewel fallout. My God, it's going to be a great conversation. I can't wait. So thank you so much for listening, guys. As always, I'll talk to you next time. Enjoy the conversation. All right, and right now, Anthony DiMarco joins me because it's not a Saturday night, it's a Sunday night, but nonetheless, no matter, it is now time to talk about everything in the world of WWE from this past week and look ahead to the dreaded or somewhat lukewarm card of the Crown Jewel pay-per-view and wait, where is it? Saudi Arabia. And, of course, talk about everything in between, the news, the rumors, all that kind of stuff. So, Anthony, welcome back to the show.
Glad to be back, Matt. How you doing?
Hanging in there. As I mentioned a few weeks ago, man, I'm just about to finish up moving, and I'm actually closing on my house this week as far as the house I'm selling, closing on that. So things are looking up. The pain of moving is moving on, and hopefully you are you energized for this show.
Yeah, well, I feel for you, man. I did the whole moving thing last year right around this time, so I'm sure that you must be itching towards the finish line. It must feel good.
Yeah, I'm not gonna bore people. It's everybody knows. I don't need to complain. The thing is, and when you move multiple times, you forget how bad it is until you start doing it again. So yeah, it's a pain in the neck. But once you get where you are, and we actually sold our house for more than we put it on the market for, so we got a good deal. It's pretty awesome. So anyway, moving on to WWE and things that people are here to listen to. I really, really want to talk to you, of course, about Crown Jewel. We're going to get to the predictions and on a card that some people are protesting, watch, may not watch, but I think the majority of fans will tune into that show because I think that it's a show that, hey, it's got some interesting matchups, not necessarily ones people want to see, but you're interested to see the outcome, so we're definitely going to get a touch on that. Of course, we could start with a whole bunch of different stuff. Bayley's turn. We haven't talked since Bayley turned heel. Seth Rollins burning down the Firefly Funhouse and Rambling Rabbit being resurrected. I mean, all over the place. So, Anthony, let me toss it to you because, honestly, we could start anywhere.
Well, you know what? I might go a bit off the board here, but I just want to touch on Daniel Bryan, and I just to like start off on a positive note, I love what they are doing with Daniel Bryan right now because I've heard you say it a few times over the past couple of weeks about how you're not sure if you really want to trust him. Is he babyface? Is he heel? They alluded to it on SmackDown this week, like how he's yet to embrace the yes chance. He's relatively silent, hasn't really given his stance on things, and I just love now that they've thrown him into a program with Nakamura and Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn has just breathed new life into Shinsuke Nakamura. He's given him a character, for lack of a better terms, that I thought held Nakamura back through his first 2 years with WWE. And you can just tell how Sami Zayn really gets the crowd engaged and makes them care about Shinsuke Nakamura, who's A+ in the ring. And I just can't wait to see where they go with this storyline. Obviously, Nakamura it's Sami Zayn and Daniel Bryan have a backstory like they alluded to. I'm curious where they go with Daniel Bryan. So right now I'm really drawn into that particular program.
That's a good way to start. Yeah, I like the fact that you started there, and that's a point I may or may not have even thought to bring up. So I'm glad you did. Yes, Daniel Bryan is intriguing the crap out of me, for lack of a better term, because I don't know where they're going with it. That's what I love. He's kind of in between. The fans are like, we still love you, come back to us. And he's like, I don't know, and he hasn't until he fully embraces that yes movement, that is not a true turn back to see the light again, if you will. That's a question that, Michael Cole asked, and I have been keeping a close eye on before Michael Cole even said that, because as the yes chants began to grow and Eric Rowan turned on Bryan and the yes chants began as Bryan organically kind of became the sympathetic figure in that whole storyline, he never stood on that middle rope and also joined in with the yes chants. I noticed that, and I said, something's up here. Something's not right. And I kept waiting for the long, slow burn of Daniel Bryan being the one behind the whole thing with Roman Reigns. And it still could happen. I know those odds are fading. Every time I come on here, I say that. But I would love some kind of long story arc that would actually lead back to Daniel Bryan being the mastermind behind it. And I think Roman Reigns, I've said it 100 times, Roman Reigns and Daniel Bryan could have a really good story together. There's a lot to build on there. But yes, I am really curious as to where they're going with Daniel Bryan. I don't know. His acting is amazing. I love the psychotic Daniel Bryan. I actually hope he turns back heel. I don't even know if it's because he was the one behind Roman Reigns or some other reason. I just don't care. I think Daniel Bryan is that psychotic, lights are on, no one's home, look in his eye that he gives. When they did that flashback on SmackDown of him talking about the yes movement is dead, the old Daniel Bryan is dead, the new Daniel Bryan is here, that look in his eye, that is just brilliance on his part. I really hope this is not a turn back to babyface and it ends up being a swerve where the fans are like, I really hope this is him another step to the dark side.
Well, I think the reason why they have so many people engaged with this is because Daniel Bryan is the rare kind of breed that, at least in my mind, he's just as good a heel as he is a babyface. I feel it's similar to how The Rock was in that respect. Shawn Michaels was like that as well. So he could really play to both sides. You know, he is a great psychotic heel when he has that far waist stare, as you alluded to. But, you know, he's also as good and as over as a babyface as you could get. So it really is up in the air where he goes. But I think either avenue they go down, Daniel Bryan is that good that it'll work. I like that he's in a title picture, especially that it is the Intercontinental Championship, which I feel like has gotten, you know, thrown off to the side here when the wild card rule was in play. And I think this is one of the reasons why I like the brand split so much, because the mid-tier titles get the spotlight and they feel important on SmackDown and the U.S. title on Raw. So I'm really liking how they're inserting Daniel Bryan into the title picture to make it feel important. But yeah, it's one of these rare scenarios where with WWE where I'm not begging them to go one way as opposed to the other, because Bryan is so good that I think it will turn out and pay off in spades no matter what.
No doubt. Look, you said it. Daniel Bryan is awesome on both ends. And the only reason I'm arguing that I hope he stays heel is not because he's not a good babyface. I mean, my God, he was the biggest babyface WWE had for 2 years or more. I mean, he absolutely took WWE by storm and forced their hand to WrestleMania 30. We all know the story. But I don't feel that he got a true full run as a heel. I feel like it kind of got cut short, even though he was the tag team champions with Eric Rowan. He had some good mic time, but that faded quick. And I like the vegan part of him, the you're destroying the planet part, but it didn't last long. And I feel like I didn't get a full story with him as a heel. That's the reason that I want him to stay heel and have a nice 6-month run or more, and then, you know, organically change back to a babyface. Like he could do that. I mean, no damage done. The fans, anytime he wants to come back, the fans will embrace him. And no matter how dastardly or he is or evil he is or whatever he does, the fans will always gravitate back to him. All the WWE has to do is just flip a switch. I mean, you could have a storyline of him getting beat down by 3 guys and you're right back to it. I just feel like I got shortchanged on his full heel run.
Yeah, I would echo that point, because it's almost like it got intercepted by the Kofi nonsense. And then they had to pull the plug early on Daniel Bryan's title reign because people were so behind Kofi. Because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the original plan was for him to go one-on-one with Kevin Owens at WrestleMania for the WWE Championship. And, you know, I was kind of disappointed, like you mentioned, about how he went into the tag team division and then that kind of died out quickly. So I would kind of like to see more heel Daniel Bryan. You know, it's only been a year, and he was babyface for like 7 years before that. So I would be on board with that as well. And to be quite honest, I was kind of looking forward to a program with Roman Reigns, because I felt like they could literally be the yin to the other one's yang. I've always felt that they had good chemistry together. I believe that they had a match at Fastlane leading up to WrestleMania 31. So yeah, I feel like that whole program, the payoff left me something to be desired. So for that reason, I would, if I had to pick, probably lean towards him going full-blown heel again as well.
I just think it's the right reason, or the right thing to do, because when you look around on the SmackDown roster, Roman Reigns doesn't have a whole lot of guys to work with that he hasn't already worked with many, many times. And yes, he's worked with Daniel Bryan. Yes, he has. But as you said, it has been quite some time since he's done that, at least on a long-term scale. It is time to turn and keep Daniel Bryan heel for a while to WWE's forevermore babyface that will never turn heel because of Vince's stubbornness and Roman Reigns. So there's your yin to the yang, as you put it. Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns could have a 3+ month program. I don't think that would get old. There's material to draw on from 4 or 5 years ago. There's a lot to build on there. That's why I'm still hopeful that this could end up being Daniel Bryan being the mastermind behind the attacks. And again, maybe I'm wrong, but The point of the matter is that when WWE is looking at Roman Reigns, and we all know that they are, every single chance that they get, making sure he's on the poster, making sure he's the first guy out, the last guy in the main event, even if he doesn't have a championship, he is still the focus of the company. So to have Daniel Bryan there would be a really good foil for Roman Reigns. So just kind of wrapping up on that point, though, yes, Daniel Bryan, to me, is more valuable. Not that he's better as a heel, but he's more valuable to the company, and particularly the SmackDown brand as a heel right now.
Yeah, well, like, we bring up Roman Reigns, and you know what? Like, I'm not a big Roman Reigns guy, but, like, I respect him as a worker because I do feel like he's good in the ring and whatnot. But, like, every time he comes out, I don't know about you, Matt, but everything just feels, like, so forced with him. Because he comes out from the back entrance and he's like staring off like into oblivion, like observing the area, or, you know, like you always put, like, too cool for school. But I feel like before he comes through that curtain, Vince McMahon is just like, oh, well, you got to show them that you want them to be there and play to them. And that's when he does like that whole, like, I don't know how to explain it through a microphone, but like when he like pumps it up to the crowd and everything. And now they give him that god awful pyro that feels like it goes longer than the main to the opening of WrestleMania. It just doesn't stop. And it's like, I want to get behind Roman Reigns because I feel like he's a great worker and he's a great guy, and I want to get behind him so bad. But, you know, I'll be watching with my girlfriend, and like we'll both just start laughing because everything is just so forced with him.
There is nothing organic about Roman Reigns when it comes to charisma. As you just said, and I will be the first one to say this, and I've said this whole thing on Roman Reigns ad nauseum in a while, and I mentioned on my last show, I have not ranted about Roman Reigns in quite many, many months. And that, you know, for I don't know how long I was just constantly ranting on it, saying, what are they doing? Turn him heel. My whole thing about this is, with Roman Reigns, and continues to be, Roman Reigns is a guy that I would actually draft at the top of an actual real draft, not a poorly produced, eye-rolling, embarrassing draft that WWE put on, but in an actual real draft, Roman Reigns would be number 1 or 2 for me. He is that good inside the ring. He's very marketable. Obviously, I see why WWE is enamored with him, i.e. Vince McMahon is enamored with him. I understand all of that from a business perspective. But as you pointed out, nothing he does feels natural. Nothing he does inside, especially his entrance, feels like, hey, this is how I feel right now, and I'm showing you my emotion. It's like pre-planned emotion. You can't do that. As human beings, we have that sixth sense when we see BS. We feel it. We see it. And when I see Roman Reigns, I see a corporately produced, just the mold of a cover superstar that came from Vince McMahon's wet dream is Roman Reigns. And it just continues to be that way. And Roman Reigns, look, he hasn't changed his entrance outside of coming from the crowd. Now he's coming from the back like, you know, everyone else. He hasn't changed his music. He hasn't changed his attire. He hasn't changed his hair. He has changed nothing about himself at all since he disbanded from the Shield the first time. Nothing. And it's just, there's no change with him. And now, you know, he'll have a okay promo every once in a while. He's never, ever in his entire singles career, or any faction for that matter, with the Shield or Seth when they were tag team partners, never ever has had the A+ promo. How is that possible when he's your top guy? Never has he cut that promo that like cut to my core of like, man, this guy, I felt that. I've never ever sensed that with Roman Reigns, ever. That is number one that's missing, and I could go down the list, but I'll stop right there.
Well, because, you know, the big argument is that he's just a prototypical, or a carbon copy rather, of John Cena. And John Cena gets a ton of gripe. And you know what? I'm probably a bit biased with John Cena because, like, I remember watching wrestling was when I was about, I don't know, 8 or 9 years old when he broke in, and I saw the development of John Cena. And, like, I saw him go from, you know, just the everyday thug, heel rapper, lower mid-card guy to, you know, the top of the podium. But I wasn't the biggest John Cena fan. Like I mentioned, like, I always kind of like had more respect for him than everyone else because I just grew up watching him. But I was never the biggest John Cena fan, and still am not. But the thing about John Cena is, A, his promo work is second to none. and B, he was original. You know, he may have been like the first ever, you know, like corporately produced guy, but he was the first one. He was the first of his kind. I know people always call it the 6 moves of doom, but I always enjoyed a John Cena match. You know, as I just mentioned and you said before, his promos were great and he was just himself. And I feel like everything about John Cena, whether you like it or not, was authentic. And now it's like Roman Reigns, who he's not the same character as John Cena, but they're cut from the same cloth. And John Cena said it, 2 years ago when they had that very short program, that he's just a carbon copy of himself. So it's really tough to see them try and make it John Cena 2.0 when John Cena was pretty much the first of his kind.
Yeah, John Cena he's special. He's once in a generation. He was that good. As you said, whether you love him or hate him, you cannot deny the impact John Cena had on the company and on the industry for that matter. He is a game changer. His promo skills, I honestly believe that he could go toe to toe with Paul Heyman. He is at the top of the list when it comes to promos, ad-libbing. He doesn't feel like he's memorizing lines. Even if he did, props to him, but I really doubt that he was ever going in the back memorizing line for line. I think he had bullets. I think he went out there and used his own brain and wit to come up with filling in the blanks. When Roman Reigns and John Cena went toe-to-toe in their program, you saw how easily John Cena carved up Roman Reigns right in front of his face. Roman Reigns, even, if you remember, got all choked up, couldn't remember his lines, and drew a blank when John Cena was in there with him, and Cena said to him, hey, you know, it's called a promo. You may want to learn how to do it, big dog, or something like that. I mean, calling him out in the middle of the promo, cutting a promo, breaking the fourth wall, that was uncomfortable to see from Roman Reigns' perspective. But to your point, Roman Reigns is not John Cena 2.0. Roman Reigns is WWE is trying to mold him the way that John Cena was molded and push him the way John Cena was pushed. But the problem is John Cena had a hell of a connection with the audience right from the beginning with the Doctor of Thugonomics. I enjoyed it. I love when he brought it back at WrestleMania this past year. That was awesome. John Cena, anytime he comes back, I love his promos. I may not ever cheer for him because I'm not on board with his gimmick, but he can cut a promo like nobody else. So yeah, that's what I think. I don't think Roman Reigns is John Cena 2.0, but I see why you would draw that analogy because I think WWE tried to have him follow in the footsteps of John.
Yeah, and I feel like nowadays a lot of what WWE tries to do, like I like their thought process behind it and I can respect what they're going for, like they're doing with Roman Reigns, but the execution is just awful. And like just to segue into like another topic, like the Rusev Lashley Lana gimmick, like I honestly am probably not as hard on this gimmick as most people because I respect what they're trying to do. A, I respect that they're trying to push the PG thing. B, I really like that they're putting Rusev in a prominent role. And even Lashley for that matter, because I think since he's turned heel and gotten more mic time, he's done better than I personally would have expected. But like, my God, has the execution been brutal. You know, you talked about it on your show reviewing Raw. Like, they've just made him out to be like such an idiot. Like, really? You want Lana back after all this? Like, what are you doing, bud? But like, it's just like, I respect that they're trying to do an edgier angle. I really like that they're putting two guys at the forefront who have been buried for the better part of a year, at least up until before WrestleMania. But it's just like, you guys had all the right intentions, but how could you have made it flop so bad?
Well, that's just it. Like, I mean, I think I'm crushing this angle because of the execution. And as you said, I know what they're trying to do. Very obvious of what they're trying to do. But the problem with this whole thing, beyond the ridiculousness of it, and beyond the fact that this is extremely implausible, the fact that Lana is, you know, basically committing adultery on national television. It's a little bit over the top. We've seen WWE go way over the top before, but in this PG era where I would like to not be insulted by my intelligence, it's hard to overlook that. I know what they're going for, but it's also the biggest problem I have. It's making Rusev the babyface, the sympathetic figure that you're supposed to relate with and feel for. Making him feel and look like a fool does not get me invested in this story, because I don't care a damn about Bobby Lashley. I mean, Bobby Lashley is as interesting as, I don't know, as watching paint dry. I have no other good analogy, but he is probably doing the most interesting thing he's ever done. Unfortunately, he's not that interesting of a guy from a charismatic standpoint. You take Rusev, a guy that the fans beloved. Rusev is a guy that if there was a vote done for the WWE fans, what guy is WWE underutilizing the most? Rusev would probably come out in the top 3 easily. He is a guy that fans feel that he should be pushed. And now they're putting him in this angle that doesn't really make him look that great. He looks like an idiot for standing there. And beyond this, what prompted this to begin with? If you wanted this to happen, maybe, you have Lashley and you have Rusev in a tag match or something, and Lana's ringside behind Rusev. And then after the match, Rusev gives Lana a wink and she kind of gives him a smile. And then things organically, move from there. And then the next thing you know, they're caught on like GTV or some weird backstage camera catching them just talking. And then it just slowly escalates and escalates and escalates. The next thing you know, they're caught in like her leaving his hotel room or something. There's ways to do this all and beyond. Hey, all of a sudden, boom, Lana's like in bed with Rusev and the cameras are there. And why the hell is Rusev? Nothing's been explained. They went from 0 to 100 instead of telling the story the right way. That's the whole problem. And Rusev looks like a complete fool for this whole thing.
Yeah, well, like you said, it was very rushed. They were all off TV for 6 months, if not longer. Then they come back and all this has gone on while they were both away. And, maybe they could have swung this angle and it could have worked, but just don't give Rusev the mic. Just don't make him say anything. I've always found Rusev was better when he wasn't talking, whether it be Aiden English speaking for him or his early days when he was from Russia, actually, and Lana was just his business associate. And, he had that incredible winning streak up until he lost the U.S. title to John Cena at WrestleMania 31. But, I don't know if it's Rusev just not being too good at acting or he just thinks the angle is dumb. But when he was talking to, I think it was Jerry Lawler on Monday Night Raw, it was almost like you could tell that Rusev thought the whole thing was stupid as well. And, like I said, I'm not going to be as harsh on it as other people because I do respect what WWE is going for. But it's just a lot of things now where, the execution on things, it's I know I don't want to ignite a fire under you, but, the Shorty G thing, my God, I understand what you're trying to do and you're trying to make him a role model. But, again, the same thing with Rusev and Lashley. You just shoved it down everyone's throat, just oh, wait, he's embracing being short? Oh, no, now we have to cheer for him? No, keep his name Chad Gable. Stop bringing up the fact that he's short, and it will organically happen. The best things in WWE are the organic ones, like Daniel Bryan, even though that we weren't even into it, the Kofi Kingston thing. The best things in WWE that come about are organically drawn and grown. And then you get this Shorty G thing where it's just they saw that the crowd was a bit behind them, they got their hands on it, and now they're just shoving it down our throats.
Yeah, so like you said, it was kind of like a trigger warning there. Right? I'm not trying, and I don't want to Shorty G. Again, the good things about this are I love his athleticism. I know we're transitioning a bit, but his athleticism is second to none. What he can do inside the ring is something that I don't see a whole lot on this roster. I love his in-ring, his ability to tell a story even when you don't even know what the hell the backstory is. He is so skilled in the ring. He understands ring psychotic. But as you said with this Shorty G thing, this whole thing makes no sense from the beginning. This guy is he in the amateur wrestling of this 2020 or the 2012 Summer Olympics. He won in the 2012 Summer Olympics. And you're telling me this? I don't think people understand that. Oh, he's just an Olympian. Well, Kurt Angle was too, and so No, like the dedication and the mental strength you have to become an Olympian, even getting to trials, even regionals, even like the amount of dedication and mental strength that you have to have is off the charts in terms of that. You have to live and breathe and bleed and all that for that particular whatever field that you're in to get to that level. And you're telling me this guy that gets to WWE and a couple of people call him short and all of a sudden just become a trend where everybody calls him short. Even the ring announcer jumps on, which made no sense. The announcers jump on board. And then all of a sudden, Shorty G coming out, and he transitions his name like, well, I don't want the bullies to hurt me, so I'll just change and become an inspiration. It makes me want to vomit on my laptop right now. I'm going to pause before I go too far, but my point is, this guy is an Olympian. I've said it before. Rey Mysterio, Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero. There are so many legends that were at his height or shorter that he easily point to, and that whole conversation dies. That whole argument dies. Everybody's jabs that they take at him die if he just comes back that argument. And instead, he's just going, well, you know what? I'm just going to embrace this name because basically I have no self-esteem, and I'm just going to take it and run with it. What I do, I'm going to pause and take a breath and hand it to you.
Well, and it seems like a reoccurring thing with WWE, and I'm not trying to be overly negative here because all of the biggest problem from WWE right now is that they see a positive, and then they try and get their hands on it and get their, I don't know how to put it into good words here, but they try and put their own spin on it. And you see, like, they saw that Chad Gable was working, and then they're just like, oh, we can make it better now. Change them to Shorty G. You've seen it with Heavy Machinery. Like, Otis got over quite quickly, and, like, not trying to be mean here, but part of the gimmick was that he was, a fatter, chubbier guy who had funny facial expressions and was oddly athletic for his size. And what do? They change his ring gear to, like, show how big he is and how fat he actually is, and have him pour pancake butter all over himself to try and, like, play on the whole thing that he's a big, funny, big fat guy. And it's these things that I find like you're shooting yourselves in the foot, because Heavy Machinery came about and got over organically. Chad Gable came about, got over organically. Rusev got over organically with the whole Rusev Day thing. And then WWE just realizes that, and instead of it just run its course, they get their hands in it and they try and, re-navigate the way it's going. And I still like Heavy Machinery. They're one of my favorite tag teams right now. But that whole thing of emphasizing how fat Otis is has put a damper on it for me. And the same with Shorty G.
This is reflective of, and you probably heard me talk about this with Mary last week, it's just reflective of Vince McMahon and the writers writing for Vince and not for what's good for best and best for TV. And this is a low reflective of Vince McMahon's humor backstage. And look, I don't work with Vince McMahon. You don't work with Vince McMahon, but we've been watching wrestling long enough to know what gets Vince's chuckles. We know what makes him laugh. That he has the mentality of a 14-year-old prepubescent boy who's going into high school and finds, bathroom humor, what we're seeing on TV now, funny. It's not. It doesn't. I don't know who who's in for, whose target audience is. I really don't know. Beyond himself and his inner circle, probably going, that was great, Vince. Isn't this funny? And no one else is, everyone rolling their eyes or, whatever. I look, Heavy Machinery. I'm on board too. I love Heavy Machinery. I think that they are the tag team of the future. I love what they're doing. But when you throw the pancake batter in, the problem is he's not using entertainment. Vince is not using entertainment as wrestling. He's trying entertainment to be entertained. It's actually working against him, if that makes sense. Wrestling is entertainment by definition. You don't need to try to entertain me outside of wrestling. Yes, of course, to happen. Occasional backstage segments need to happen. But 99% of the time, when you try to use comedy in wrestling, it does not work out. And in this case, it just detracts from the character, detracted from Otis. And I love Otis. And yeah, he's got a big belly. Okay, well, so did Kamala, so did Yoda, so did Vader. So, I mean, go down the line. And these guys were never emphasized as such. We know they're big men, but I don't need in a comedic way that takes away rather than saying, wow, this guy's got a lot of weight. He could really crush his opponents. Instead, you're going, oh, well, he's eating pancake batter. That's why big belly. So the problem is they're focusing on it with the wrong lens. And that's what they're doing with Otis right now.
Yeah, and, I guess that kind of segues into, this whole, tag team turmoil that's going on in Crown Jewel. And, that's a team that I would be pulling for. Do I think that Heavy Machinery would win? No, I think it's a bit too early for that. But at the same time, the Viking Raiders just won the Raw Tag Team titles. So, I guess you can never say never. But, just the fact that they did this whole angle with Otis emphasizing just how big of a fat stomach he has, it just kind of makes me think okay, well, you take them seriously in a sense that they are over with the crowd and whatnot. But if you're doing that, do you really want to put the belts on them? And I just find going into, a tag team turmoil like they are, where every tag team's going to be involved, they kind of shoot themselves in the foot and take, a realistic option to win this thing out of it. Going in, I kind of just think, I guess, an early spoiler to what I think my prediction will be, but I just think they're going to go with the New Day because I just think WWE is that kind of predictable in this aspect. But it just kind of it just sucks that they see something that's working with Otis and Tucker, because I do think Tucker is underrated and gets overshadowed sometimes by Otis. And you just, take all the positive attention away for them to, just emphasize how big he is. And it's just really unfortunate, especially when you have such a talented team like Heavy Machinery, for them to go down this route.
Yeah, I think we've said it. This, and they stayed away from it a little bit this week. There wasn't any more pancake batter, but he's still, basically he took off his shirt or his wrestling attire so he could expose his whole belly, and it's I don't know. And it's just being done just for the humor sense of it, rather than legitimizing his credentials or, as I said, his size to say, oh, he's got a lot of strength. No, he's got a big size because he eats a lot. It's just so lowbrow. I don't know. But, yeah, let's move on. Speaking of the tag teams, though, and we'll get to the Crown Jewel, you and I are the supporters in terms of, let me clarify, of course, him being WWE champion. I think it was a very lackluster, ho-hum, vanilla, very underwhelming. We're detracting from the belt run. I think that sums up the whole thing. He's just kind of fits right back into he belongs, in my estimation, in the tag team scene. And I'm totally fine with where he's at. He fits very well with where he's at. The only issue I have is that, and maybe you heard me say this on previous shows, it's like he doesn't care. The one thing he's sure, he had his kids celebrate with him for. He climbed and went through endless gauntlets and went through Daniel Bryan and, defended against Randy Orton and defended all these individuals, and then he gets to Brock Lesnar, loses 9 seconds, doesn't have boo to say about it other than, well, I got the power of positivity. Does it get any weaker than that? Not only does he not have the belt anymore, he's still taking away from the belt even when he doesn't have it because it doesn't care that he lost it. So not that I want to see him champion again, but for him to not even give a damn that he lost it, act like he does, and he's just back to throwing pain like a 12-year-old, that hurts the belt even though he's no longer wearing it. What do you think?
Well, yeah, it just goes back to the reason why you and I were not behind him as champion, because he didn't take anything seriously. And even in the wake of the most embarrassing defeat in a WWE championship match, he still doesn't care. And you know what? I think all this just goes to show that Vince McMahon and probably upper management never really took him seriously as a WWE champion, and they just kind of want to move on away from that angle as fast as humanly possible. They threw the crowd a bone, they gave them what they wanted, and now they're just okay, we're done with it, and now hush hush about it. They don't want to acknowledge it ever happened. But yeah, it's just, I think in doing so, to your point, it's it just reinforces why guys like you and myself hated him as champion because it's like didn't even bother him. And now he's just good with just going back to the tag team division. And he doesn't even have anything to say about it or try and justify why he lost. He didn't even try and say like explain himself as to that he had an off night or anything. It's just like it never happened. It got briefly brought up, I think, by Heavy Machinery. And to your point, he just said, oh, well, I have the power of positivity and, good night the lights. That title doesn't matter to me anymore. I think that Kofi is back where he belongs, like you mentioned, in the tag team division. And I think that, the New Day is always going to work, whether you like them or not. There will always be a demographic that is behind the New Day. But it's really tough that they put all this time and effort to try and build them up as a legit, competitive singles competitor. Like, I think it was something like he didn't lose this one-on-one singles match for from WrestleMania all the way until his loss against Brock Lesnar. And, that is saying something. And now he's just back to square one where he was. It just makes the whole thing non-believable. And again, it just felt forced to me, even though most of the WWE fan base was very behind it.
Yeah, I mean, anything in addition to that. I want to get the WWE champion. I want to say WWE champion and not Kofi Kingston in the sentence. I just wanted to move on, just as management wanted to, as you said. I think it was done as fan service. Give him a lengthy title run. Make the fans feel like they, are running the show here. But in reality, once it starts to get back to WrestleMania season and the important part of the year, Kofi Kingston is nothing more than an afterthought as to the contenders for the champ. I don't think WWE will ever put him in or have him. Let me rephrase. I don't think WWE will ever put him as champion again. He may have another championship opportunity, absolutely now, especially given the brands with more opportunities given to talent that normally wouldn't have it. But I don't think he'll ever get another run with the championship. I really don't believe. I think that they were like, well, what they wanted, and they can't complain. But a lot of people had, of course, a lot to say about the Brock Lesnar win, which I actually loved. But personally, I let 9 seconds. People are losing their minds over it, saying this isn't right. Kofi Kingston deserves better. He doesn't. No, he doesn't. You know why? Because Brock Lesnar would do that to Kofi Kingston. So you guys talk about believability. You talk about wanting to get into the story and something that I can sink my teeth into and go, yeah, that would happen. Yes, it wouldn't be an F5. If it was a true fight in an octagon, Brock Lesnar would put down Kofi Kingston in under 10 seconds. So I don't want to hear about Kofi deserves better. No, he doesn't, because that's what would happen.
Well, you know what? Just to go back more on a positive note, to go on what you said about Brock Lesnar, I feel like people want to hate Brock Lesnar because he's an invader and, he's a part-timer and he only shows up when he feels like it. So they force themselves to hate him. But you know what? He is probably the best thing that they have going for them right now because he is a legit badass. And I find what lacks in WWE now today is relatability to their characters. Like, think about what got Stone Cold Steve Austin over. He was just a blue-collar redneck who didn't take shit from his boss. Sorry, I didn't mean to swear there. But he didn't take crap from his boss. The Rock, he was, he got over as a heel, but even when he was a babyface, he was still kind of a badass. And, he did what he wanted, and he was really cool back in those days. And now you get guys like Seth Rollins, who's a really big panderer. We have Roman Reigns, who we've already touched on this show. But then you get Brock Lesnar. And you know what? Obviously he's not relatable to me because I'm not 300 pounds and an all-state athlete and across multi-combat sports. And you know what? Even though maybe he's not relatable to me, he is still, a realistic character. He is a legit badass. He was an NCAA wrestling champion. He tried out for the Minnesota Vikings. He won multiple heavyweight titles in the UFC. He has legit credentials, and he pretty much plays himself. And that's why I am drawn to Brock Lesnar. Who would not want to be Brock Lesnar? He looks like having his life is the most awesome thing to be. He does what he wants when he wants it, and he could beat up pretty much anyone on the planet. And that's why I like Brock Lesnar, and I'm drawn to Brock Lesnar. And to your point, it's realistic for him to show up and knock out a guy in 9 seconds who was pretty much a lower mid-card guy for almost a decade. And that's why people, they want so bad to hate Brock Lesnar. And you know what? I know that it would be better if he wrestled every week. But you know what? He earned the right not to wrestle every week. And I think you've touched on this before on past shows. It makes him feel more special, the fact that he only shows up once a month or what have you. And like, man, oh man, like I touched a bit on Seth Rollins, and like I respect the hell out of Seth Rollins, but like I just find that for me, I rather see Brock Lesnar than Seth Rollins every day of the week, because I don't find Seth Rollins' character all that relatable.
Yeah, I think that's something to bring up that I don't think a lot of people think about. Is we all have been trained to dislike Brock Lesnar because, oh, he's not here that much. Oh, he doesn't come out and do much. He stands there and Paul Heyman talks for him. But when you look at what Brock Lesnar brings to the table and what he's done for this business, yes, he's not here every week. I don't care. I don't want him there every week. I don't need him there. Even as champion, I don't want him there every week because of the extreme issue in today's WWE of overexposure. Need it. And him going up against Cain Velasquez, and we'll get to our predictions, so I won't give you my prediction, but I think ultimately the fans could easily turn on Cain Velasquez here. And yes, we're in Saudi Arabia, so who knows how the crowd there is going to react. But if it was back in the States and this program continues, this could be, I think, a disaster for WWE, because you talk about being an invader. Brock Lesnar is not an invader anymore. Brock Lesnar since 2012 when he returned, and he left before that in 2004. We all know the story you outlined. Brock's not anymore. Brock has been here. He's been champion. He's been WWE champion. He's been Universal champion. He has been in the main events of WrestleMania multiple times. Been here. Now you want to talk about invaders? Cain Velasquez comes new guy. Can't even barely speak English. That's not a good way to connect with your friends, number one, unless they're bilingual, of which I would say a very small percentage are. And then you have, okay, he was a UFC main eventer, and Brock Lesnar, 8, 9, you know the story. They showed the scar. That's great, and I would do the same thing. But if you're talking about invaders, either people may perceive Brock as an invader in this match, I think could actually perceive Cain Velasquez, and smartly so, rightfully so, as the invader, and turn him, I think, in a very big way. If he botches moves, if he looks like he doesn't know what he's doing, he ends up messing up this match and it becomes a Goldberg Undertaker disaster, which I don't think it will, because Brock is that good in the ring and he can make anybody look good. But if it's Cain Velasquez gets exposed very bad way, this could, number one, be a disaster for Cain Velasquez in WWE, but more importantly, this match could get completely bare. A match that people talked about, oh, what if he came to WWE, and now we get the opportunity. This match, it needs to be very careful how this match is. It's going to go very quickly, but those are my thoughts before we get to our predictions.
Well, this match kind of falls right back to where I said before that I respect what they're doing, but the execution is not there. Because, you know what? I'm all for Cain Velasquez trying to come in and, excuse me, and trying to, choose a new career path. No reason why he shouldn't be able to do it. He was a great UFC fighter. I think with the proper conditioning and training, he could succeed in WWE. But here's the problem, is that he comes in, attacks the champion, and the long-standing rule of attack the champion, you get a title match. Right there, right off the bat, there's an issue. Then there's the invader prospect. Then there's the fact that he just looks like an average day Joe. And then another issue is that he's probably not going to look that good in the ring. I've seen him get into altercations with Brock and Shelton Benjamin most recently. And okay, he kind of got F5 there by Brock, but he didn't get any offense in there. But he still looks like there's a lot of work to be done. But maybe the in-ring thing they can get by with here, like to your point, Brock is that good. But, I just don't know what the rush was here. And it seems like a reoccurring thing in WWE that they're rushing into things. And again, I like the idea behind it. I think that with the proper build and a bit more logic and, creativity behind this angle, it could have been booked properly. But we know that Cain Velasquez isn't going to win the belt, nor should he win the belt. He came in right after the draft, and we don't even know what brand he belongs to. He's been on Raw and Smackdown. Already, criticizing the rules of the WWE draft. And I just think that not to repeat myself, but it was a good idea. I think that this could have been a big money match, but in the circumstances of how they built it and when they built it, it just has a lot of potential to flop big time.
I think the downside here is much bigger than the upside to this match. The good thing is, and as I've said in the past too, this match lends itself to being very quick because Brock Lesnar's matches are very quick. I would say under 3 minutes this match could be over. The thing you want to do though, and I'm trying to avoid discussing the outcome, but we'll do that in a minute, but there's a lot of risk here. A lot of risk for a not that big of a word because Kane is brand new to actually being on television. He may be working the Performance Center. He may have been working there for a long period of time, but there's a much different skill set that's involved when the kids go live and you're live and especially in front of how many people. And there's just a lot of things I think that could go wrong, which is why I think this match is going to be meticulously laid out. Little room for Kane to mess up. And that's why I think it's going to be 3 minutes or less. I believe that, and I'll get to my prediction in just a second. But before I do, what do you think of, I got to ask, Bayley's heel turn? Before we get into the predictions, did you like it? Did you think it could be better? What did you think?
I think they did a pretty good job with it. A bit long overdue, but, I think they did a good job in executing it when they did. Kind of a fresh start for her at the same time as the brand split. They kind of gave the reins to her to, lead SmackDown into this new era, which was kind of nice to see as they put Charlotte and Becky on the Raw side. I think the one thing that I'm kind of not liking about it is that, Sasha Banks is just her lackey now. Like, I didn't like the fact that on commentary on SmackDown, like, Sasha Banks all of a sudden has forgot about trying to be the best, as she said, in the face of this women's division. And now she's just a henchman to Bayley. So that I find is kind of putting a hurting on it. But concentrating just solely on Bayley, I think that it's a breath of fresh air for her. I love her look. I love her style, the way she's dressing. And I love her theme music. I'm actually really excited to see this program with her and Nikki Cross. I really like what they're doing with Nikki Cross right now. And I think that Bayley, she's very good in the ring, and all she needed to do was freshen up her gimmick. So, yeah, I'm really liking this Bayley thing right now.
I love it. You know me. I've been calling for this for how long? It's just been. I think it's 6 months to a year overdue, but it's here. And I'm happy. I think it's well timed, and I think Bayley's going to fit very nicely into, as you said, the thing on commentary. Yeah, it is as if Sasha Banks has taken a back seat to the newly freshly turned Bayley, but you know what? Rightfully so. As long as this is a temporary back seat, I don't want Sasha to get lost in the sauce and have her just be second fiddle to Bayley. Admittedly, again, I'm finding the focus as it should be because Bayley, the beloved character, they know would turn heel just as Daniel Bryan never turned heel, but God forbid Roman turns heel, God forbid Cena turns heel. I mean, that's a whole other rant. But Bayley's heel. Bayley is heel, and I think there's a lot to do with it. It's refreshed her, given her the reset button, a whole new slew of stars so in a new dynamic, being the bad guy, doing anything it takes to win. The haircut, the dark colors, it's all symbolic of a great change for Bayley. I just don't want it to fall off the radar, and the whole this is follow-up. It's not just been an issue, a long-standing issue with WWE booking, is they do something, even if it's something you really think is a good idea and something to agree with, and then they don't follow up. They just, we did it, we turned them, and well, then there's no follow-up. I mean, that kind of tailed Daniel Bryan's heel run. It tailed off when Sasha Banks came back as a heel. She just got less and less mic time. Oh, she's just kind of here. She's not really advancing things. There's no progression for a lot of these turns. It's just like they do it, and then they don't know what the hell to do to follow up on it. And that's going to be the key, just as any turn is, not baby heel. And particularly with Bayley here, of somebody they never thought, or fans thought, you had kids crying, they would turn Bayley heel, and they did. Follow-up here is going to be key, and that's what concerns me, but I'm hopeful.
Well, the thing is that I'm hopeful in the sense that they kind of just gave Bayley the whole SmackDown Women's division. As I mentioned, Becky's not there and Charlotte's not there. And Sasha, for the time being, is a heel. Lacey Evans is a heel. Alexa Bliss, I don't even really know what she's doing right now, but I still think maybe there's some injury problems there. So the point that I'm trying to get is that there's not a lot of people who could take it away from her. And like I just mentioned, I love Nikki Cross, but now is not the right time nor the right place. And I just think that they've situated Bayley in a spot here for her to succeed. For it to go off the rails here, the WWE would have to flub it big time, because there isn't even really another logical option to hold this belt for a while. And I think that, given the circumstances, it would be realistic for Bayley to hold this up until at least WrestleMania.
I think so. I could hold this, and rightfully so. And when you have a turn of this magnitude, when you think of what Bayley stood for and what's been her entire career, you need to have one stick, and you need a long heel run. I say that so much, but in this case, it is. If you have Bayley lose in the next couple of months, this would have been for nothing. This heat building and building and building, and you want to see Bayley get her ass kicked. You want to see somebody stand up and knock her teeth out. You want to feel that. That real heel is you feel real anger. And I don't feel that yet. I'm looking at Bayley kind of in it with a watchful eye of how are they going to, what approach are they taking? And so far it's just kind of been, okay, we changed her look, A+. Changed her entrance, A+. Pulling the Bayley buddies, A++. They did a lot of good things. They had her actually curse on the air. I loved that. That's a difference in what she's done. I love all of it. The kind of the backhanded compliments to the announcers on SmackDown. Just a lot of the emotion she has is negative. It's defensive. I love that. That's what you need as a heel. And so far so good. I don't want them to stall and just go, well, she did all this stuff, but see where it goes. No, you need constant movement here. So let's continue to move on here. Is there anything that you wanted to discuss before we get to predict? I know that there's actually a whole bunch of stuff, but I'm thinking up during our match predictions, so I'll toss it to you.
Well, one thing I just wanted to bring up was the OC, because these guys, I always liked them individually, and I love them as a cohesive unit, but they seem like in such a weird spot right now, because you have AJ Styles, who he's my favorite. I love AJ Styles, but he has gone a little bit stale here. But I do prefer him as a heel. And then you get the Good Brothers in Anderson and Gallows. And on one hand, you have AJ Styles, who is pretty much booked to be a dominant mid-card champion. And he'll take some falls here and there. But, for the most part, whenever it's time for him to, defend the title, he wins rather convincingly, especially that brutal match against Cedric Alexander where he pretty much squashed him. And I also like the fact that they've had a long run with the U.S. title around his waist, because for a while there was just bouncing around like a hot potato. So I've enjoyed that. But then, to the same token, Anderson and Gallows have pretty much just become jobbers, if you will. And they're losing every tag team match that doesn't involve AJ Styles. So for me, I don't really know what to think of the OC, because you have AJ Styles, who's such a well-established mid-card champion and a former world champion, but then you have Anderson and Gallows, who can't win a match to save their life.
It is frustrating, and well, first of all, let me just say one good thing. I do like how they actually, and they acknowledge their whole Japan connection, and that they've been together, a lot of their careers and all this kind of stuff. I like that. And I like that Gallows tried to change his look up a little bit with the, I don't know, it looks kind of like a Road Warrior or something. I don't know. He tried to change his look up. I appreciate that. Try to add character, add something, add a new wrinkle. That's great. As you said, though, as a fan, I don't feel as if they are a threat to any true tag team in terms of if they were to face them straight up, say for a championship. Yes, they've been Raw champions, but they don't feel like a team that is going to ever really be the face of the tag team division, which is actually a damn shame, because they're capable of the chemistry they have, which is by all means, I mean, your face. It is amazing chemistry that they have between Gallows and Anderson, and AJ Styles for that matter. But talking specifically about just Gallows and Anderson, yes, they've been the Good Brothers. They've also been damaged. A lot of awful skits in the past that still come back to my memory when I think of the Doctor skits. I remember how terrible some of those were, and then they just disappeared, and then they're back, and they've been so many different places and so down, but now they're with AJ, who elevates them, but they just don't feel legitimate as far as a true tag team. Like they could have a super long run as the tag team champions. I don't feel that, especially as you just said it. When they're without AJ, they're just tag team. It feels like, and I don't want to feel that way.
Yeah, and it's too bad because they won the tag team titles and then they almost immediately dropped it to Braun and Seth. And I really thought they were gonna, have the whole faction have gold around their waist, and I really liked where it was going. I always found that heels are better when they're in factions. And, it would have been a nice breath of fresh air for the Raw, for the Raw brand to have them. But, I still like them. I will always be behind the OC because I like all of the wrestlers individually and as a unit. I would just like to see a bit more from them because, even the Viking Raiders, and to be honest, I think the best decision WWE made was switch them to baby faces, because I felt like they debuted them as heels. I could be wrong there. That's just the feeling I got. And I wasn't big fans of them as, like the monster heel look. And they've kind of, taken off and are now Raw Tag Team Champions. But even with how successful the Viking Raiders have been, I still feel in a way that, maybe the OC would have been better placeholder champions and then the Viking Raiders overcome them. The Viking Raiders win did not feel very important for that reason. And I don't know. I just feel like they kind of missed the boat here with a solid opportunity with the OC.
There's no question about it. They absolutely did. The Viking Raiders win. As excited as everybody was for that, and they have been. If anyone knows the history of the Viking Raiders, like they have been there for longer than just they've been in WWE. They have traveled the world as partners. Like you could feel that they do have a good chemistry. They work well together. Everything's smooth. They're great workers. And while I thought was a bit hokey at first, I mean the crowd won. I mean they popped pretty big for that. And I don't know if part of the pop was just because here for a title change. Oh my God, we're live for a tag team title change. It's pretty cool because we're in the moment. Versus, oh man, I'm just excited that the Viking Raiders are tag team champions. My guess is probably more towards 60% of them feeling, oh my God, it's about me and my experience here for this title change, rather than them organically excited about that team particularly winning the belts.
Yeah, that's how it kind of felt to me because, the Raw Tag Team titles have, kind of like what I mentioned about the U.S. titles. It's kind of been tossed around like a hot potato. You had, I think this whole, chain event started with Ryder and Hawkins, then went to the Revival, then the OC, and then it went to Braun and Seth, and then Dolph and Robert Roode. And I think it was a pop mainly because they saw it on live television. I was okay with it because, I think the crowd had a lot to do with me getting behind the victory. But I don't really care who has the tag team titles right now. I prefer long title reigns. Sometimes quick changes are good, but not when you do it all the time. And the Raw tag team titles, I just feel like they didn't really know what direction to go with them for a while. Now I think that they put on a bona fide tag team, a pure and bred tag team like the Viking Raiders. Probably had to do with something as to why the crowd popped like they did. But yeah, I'm not crazy behind the Viking Raiders, but I can at least respect what they're doing, and I'm just hoping that they give some more credibility to those titles.
That's all it's about. I want the belts to feel important, and I wouldn't say they're ice cold. I would not say that they're, but I think we need more exposure for the Viking Raiders. We need where they're from, why they're here, what their mission is, what the belts mean to them. And I have that mission statement yet as far as feeling what they're saying. So they need more of a story other than just, oh, they look wacky and cool because they look like they're straight out of Game of Thrones or something. I need more from them. It's very superficial right now. in order for the belts to feel like it's a meaningful prize for them to feel like I'm connected with the team and care if they win or lose, I need to know your story. I need to know why you're here and so forth. And I just don't have that right now with the Viking Raiders. So, all right, well, let's get to the Crown Jewel. And I'm going to start right at the top of the damn card because why not? We haven't even touched on this topic, so I'm very interested to hear what you think about this in Team Hogan versus Team Flair. And obviously on Team Hogan means Rusev, Ricochet, Shorty G, and Ali with Hogan side. And we have Flair's team of Orton, Corbin, Ashley, Shinsuke Nakamura, and Drew McIntyre. And, of course, Ric Flair at ringside. So what are your thoughts on just everything? Like the program and ultimately who wins this, and do you even care, or what will come out of this?
Well, how it came about, whatever. I mean, I've grown to just kind of respect some nostalgia stars when they come in. And, because I think you've said it a few times, like you just truly don't know when the last time is going to be when you're going to see them. And, I find like Ric Flair's kind of gone a bit over the top trying to play his old school role. And I can respect what he's doing, but it's kind of gone a bit old for me. But so I get what they're doing. I don't mind it. I don't love it. I think it'll be a fun match to watch. I'm not crazy invested into the program. But as to who I think is going to win and what could come of it, I think they have a potential here to really start something good with Drew McIntyre. He went away for a while. He's finally off on his own. There's no Dolph. There's no Shane. There's no Elias. It's just McIntyre. And this is a prime opportunity to catapult him in a good direction. And that's where I think it's going to go. I think he's going to get the win for them in a decisive fashion. But there's a part of me that just makes me think that they're going to pander to the, maybe the live audience, and they're going to have Roman Reigns stand tall and make the baby faces win. But my gut is saying that they're going to make the right call here, and Team Flair's going to go over with Drew McIntyre leading the charge and looking dominant.
Yeah. You kind of stole my thoughts there, but as a whole, I am totally in lockstep with what you were saying about Drew McIntyre. I think kind of in a reverse way of explaining this whole Drew McIntyre, I think ultimately gets the win. I don't even know if it's going to be against Roman Reigns. Maybe it is. And I think that if he pins Reigns, could it be on his own accord, by his own merit? In other words, is there no outside help people that are not in this match? Meaning, and I know this is a stretch, and I keep predicting this, so I'm not officially going with this prediction, but I'm putting it as an outside. So Daniel Bryan ends up costing the victory after it comes down to Reigns and Drew McIntyre. Maybe that's the case, but I think whoever Drew McIntyre pins, and it probably will be Reigns, it's hopefully of his own volition, because I want it to legitimize and really plant McIntyre's feet back where they belong and put him and establish him that feels like he doesn't need that help. But could they? That they could. To me, this is all McIntyre and nothing else. I need Drew McIntyre to finally get what he deserves at badass heel that you want to see someone stand up to him. This is the chance. This is the chance I think that we for. And if they put him in this match and he gets eliminated at or it's not even an elimination match. What am I talking about? This is a one fall to a finish. So if Drew McIntyre takes the fall here, I'll lose my mind. I almost think it's impossible to do. But McIntyre gets the win. I'm going to be over a probably 3G or a Ricochet. I thought it was elimination when I was talking about this at first. So it's probably going to be over somebody that's of a lesser I'm sorry, he's on his team. I am looking all over. I think Roman Reigns is going to probably pin Shinsuke, or Lashley, or Corbin. I don't think Randy Orton will take the pin. I think he will eventually will get the victory here, and we'll call it a night.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it's going to be. It's tough to go against that, because you want to think with your heart, but then you think what they're going to do, and they're probably just going to pander to the baby faces. So. I think it'll be an entertaining match. I think that there's a lot of talented guys in here. I like both teams. More so Team Flair, I like that all up and down. And, guys like Ollie and Shorty G, there's a good chance for them to showcase what they can do against top-tier talent. But, yeah, I think that might be the outcome very well.
Yeah, I mean, I just think McIntyre, this has to be the finish. This has to be the finish. Otherwise, first of all, nothing's on the line. There's none other than we're fighting for a couple of old-timers that are absolute legends in this business. But there's nothing. I really hope we don't see a leg drop. I don't need to see Hogan get in any kind of physication with anybody for any reason. Same with Flair. I don't need it. I have appreciated Flair trying to reprise his heel role, as you said. I enjoy that. Anytime I see Flair lose his mind, it's a good day at the office. I love it. But has he felt like the old Flair? No, he's definitely lost a step, but rightfully so. I mean, God, he's like 70 years old, right? But I think Drew McIntyre gets the victory, and just move on with our lives, and it's just a statement made by Drew McIntyre. Okay, Braun Strowman and Fury. I need to gather my thoughts on this one. So while I do that, what do you think? Who wins?
I've actually kind of enjoyed the build to this match, but the one thing that's hampered it for me is because I just pretty much know the outcome. It's a one-off for Tyson Fury, if I'm not mistaken. And he's getting paid a fat sack of money to do this. And I just think that's going to be, Braun Strowman jobbing to Tyson Fury. And like I said, I've enjoyed Tyson Fury more than I thought I would. I feel like he has a character that fits well in the WWE world. And I think that they've done a pretty good job of building to this match. But one thing that just hurts it for me is that I know that Braun Strowman is just going to, as Stone Cold Steve Austin would put it, do the favors for Tyson Fury. And it's just going to further delegitimize Braun Strowman as a big threat as a main eventer. So, I mean, I'm kind of conflicted on this whole angle and match because I'll give it pretty much an A for the build to it and for Tyson Fury's, I guess, performance as an actor and building his own character. But I just can't really look forward to it because I just think I know where it's going.
This one, yeah, look, they've done about as good a job as you can with celebrity interference with WWE. Everybody knows my stance on it, repeat it. But I just don't think this is going to be any different. We're going to have a celebrity come in. We're going to have a celebrity make all look like fools and then they're away and get paid a crap ton of money. And the wrestler's going to be there the next day to try to pick up the pieces and not make that loss hurt them too much. That's just the way WWE booking. So Braun Strowman is going to lose this match. Tyson Fury is going to come out looking like Bucks. That's just the formula. I don't expect a very good match. I just don't. I'm not trying to be too negative, but how can this be a good match? How? I mean, outside of the anomaly of Joe and Floyd Money Mayweather, outside of that, which was just, I think, exceeded expectations on so many levels, this is just not that. And 9 times a celebrity coming in that is not in the world of pro wrestling organically is to be trained at the Performance Center and learn how to take their bumps and all that stuff. This is just going to be a very slow pace, probably under 10 minutes, knockout for Tyson Fury and stands tall, and it'll be interesting to see how the crowd reacts to that.
Yeah, I just don't really think that there's too many places they can go with this match, and for that, it kind of hurts it for me. And, it's not like the whole Cain Velasquez angle where he signed a multi-year deal where they can, play off of it. To my knowledge, it's just a one-off for Tyson Fury. So it kind of, limits where they could go with this. And, yeah, I really don't like that this is what Braun Strowman has been relegated to. And for that, I'm just kind of not really looking forward to it.
It's so true. It's so true. But on another celebrity comes in, of course, in the world of MMA, but I'll call them these because they are badasses in their own sport, no question. With boxing and MMA, that's not the thing I'm questioning. The credentials I'm questioning. Their credentials as being professional wrestling wrestlers and being able to perform at a high level. It's just not possible for Tyson Fury and Cain Velasquez here. So. What do you think about Brock and Cain Velasquez? We talked about it, but what do you think about this? Is there any possible chance in the realm of possibility that Cain Velasquez wins here and wins the WWE Championship?
I don't think so. I'm never going to say never, but I think that would just completely devalue Brock's run and delegitimize Brock Lesnar. And we all know how Vince McMahon feels about Brock Lesnar. And one of the few things that I, thoroughly agree with Vince McMahon on is that Brock Lesnar is the best thing that they have going for them right now. And I don't think that there's a snowball's chance in hell that Cain Velasquez wins. I guess never say never, but I could say that with pretty decisiveness. I'm not sure what they're going to do. I feel like it's going to be a false finish somehow. Like, I don't know, Dom. I could see Dominic getting involved, something along those lines. But I think if Brock keeps the belt, I'm pretty adamant about that. But as far as the finish goes, I don't think that they're going to make Brock put down Cain Velasquez. Just because that would kind of hurt Velasquez right out of the gate with WWE as far as his reputation goes. So I could see something where like Dominic gets involved or Mysterio gets involved, something along the lines of that.
Yeah, eventually Dominic's going to come back, revenge on Brock, of which I hope Brock just soundly gives him an F5 and walks away. I sickly enjoy watching Brock Lesnar beat Rey Mysterio and Dominic down. There's just something I love about it. I don't know what it is, something messed up in my head. I think that Cain Velasquez in the WWE Championship picture is, if you heard my rant on this, makes zero sense to me. Zero. And I know I'm repeating myself for those who listen, but it's the perfect analogy to point this to, is if I win World Series and I go into the NFL, hey, I deserve a automatic bye to the Super Bowl. It doesn't work like that. That's just, you could point to all the stuff he's done, and he has gone to the top of the MMA and beat Brock Lesnar to a bloody pulp. We've all seen it. But it just makes no sense that he's allowed to come in here and automatically be rewarded for a WWE match. Even if it's around the waist of Brock Lesnar, it makes no sense whatsoever that he gets that match. This should just be a judge match. End of story. But Vince wants to make it the biggest it can be. But making it the biggest it can be is actually detracting from what the value of this belt means. I talk about value of belts a lot on this show, but that's what they're all there for. Belts are why the guys are there in WWE, perceivably, of course. This is a world of wrestling. But they're there to win championships and be the best they can be and be the face of the division and all that kind of stuff. In this case, it's a grudge match because of the history of these two. But to be rewarded with a WWE Championship match is absolutely preposterous, so I'll stop there. But ultimately, as far as the finish, I think Brock ends up retaining. Does he win the match? I know he could lose by DQ, so if anybody's got money on this, that Brock can actually lose and keep the belt. So I think Brock keeps the belt. I just don't know if a clean F5 or a bonification he loses and keeps the belt. Maybe he loses his cool and starts beating down Cain Velasquez with a chair, in which case this match will clearly continue, or program will continue. So I think it's one of those two. Clean victory or Brock wins by DQ. That's my thoughts.
Yeah, either way you slice it, I think that Brock keeps the belt. And to your point, I don't know if he gets a clean victory on it, but there's just no way that you could take the belt off Brock this quickly. No, as history will tell us, every time that Brock gets the belt, is aside from his last run with it when he cashed it on Seth and then quickly lost at SummerSlam, he has always had a lengthy run with belts, and as he should. I think that Brock is a guy that legitimizes world titles and legitimizes any brand he's on, whether it be SmackDown or Raw, and their respective world championships. So yeah, I just think that putting the belt on a guy like Cain Velasquez would be probably worse than Kofi Kingston, for all the reasons you just listed. So yeah, either way you slice it, Brock keeps the belt here.
A question on Twitter, and then when I put out the whole thing, hey, anybody want to ask a question, let me know. From Nilavaro, gosh, I hope I say. He asks, Velasquez has apparently signed a contract with WWE. Given what went down on SmackDown week, there's a good chance he might win the title. How do you think WWE is going to play out this storyline? So I think we kind of answered that, right? I think just because Brock Lesnar got the last laugh, if you will, and that general rule of thumb that whoever gets the last laugh rolling into the pay-per-view typically loses. In this case, I would say probably, I honestly, I would say percent of a chance that Cain Velasquez wins the WWE Championship here. If they do, I am just putting out a warning to everybody that's listening that show will be extra explicit, and I don't know, I may lose a lot of listeners for that show, but I really don't think that that's going to happen. I think we laid it out pretty nicely that even if he signed a contract, it's probably for a, multi-appearance, not necessarily time, nor should he go full-time, Cain Velasquez. I think it's be X amount of matches per, and probably most of them, probably a couple of them are with Brock Lesnar, and maybe they have a couple with, I don't know, whoever they have lined up next with Cain Velasquez. I don't even think Cain Velasquez was officially drafted, so for me to say who he's going to be facing is tough to say. But those are my thoughts. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, they could really go anywhere they want with it, and because, like you said, we don't know where he was drafted. He's appeared on Raw and SmackDown. I don't know, like you said, if he's a full-time competitor. I would lean towards more no. I think that in some capacity he would fight Brock on more than one occasion, and probably leading up to WrestleMania. Like, I could see them going at it at WrestleMania again in some way, but I think in the immediate, future and what this program, has to hold for us, I think we already kind of answered that, where, it won't be settled at this one pay-per-view, and it will draw out in some capacity.
Yeah, WWE is a business. They know that this is going to be a program that should not just end with one encounter. Cain is going to get better as he has more appearances and things like that. This is one of the most anticipated rematches. Of course, it's not in the Octagon. So for WWE to just say, "Oh, this is it. This is going to get a clean finish. We're going to move on," that doesn't make sense. And I wouldn't do that either if I were in a for-profit company. So, alrighty, moving down to the next match, much less fanfare. Mansoor versus Cesaro. I'll go first. I hope Cesaro, because I think Cesaro needs a lift in the worst way. I don't know what Cesaro is right now. He's kind of got that 80s Galactica techno music, but I dig it. I'm fine with it. It's better than trying to pretend he's James Bond, or even the Bardale, which I don't even think he really believed of who and what they are. They were just bar, and I didn't understand it. Very good team, but I don't think Cesaro's ever really hit it out of the park to identify who and what he is as a wrestling character. But again, I'm okay with what he's doing right now, but I think he needs a win in the worst way. It'd be a start. It's something you build on. Even though Mansoor isn't exactly, the cream of the crop, it would be a win that you could build off of. So I'm going with Cesaro here. What about
I'm just going to go with Mansoor, because I think they're just going to pander to the local audience. And I think that they're putting Mansoor up against a guy who could pretty much have a good match with a broomstick in Cesaro. I feel bad for Cesaro, but, even in this new Galactica music era of himself, he's changed his outfit so many times. He went from coming out in pretty much a jumpsuit to now he comes out with, skinny ankle sweatpants and a weird jacket and the sunglasses. And there's just not enough about Cesaro for me to get behind, and even to believe that WWE is to get behind, because of how often he changes who he is. So I think, unfortunately, Mansoor is going to come out here with the victory, and Cesaro's just a guy that will make him look good and put him over properly.
The more you say that, the more I'm rethinking my guess. It's just, damn it, you're probably 100% right. I mean, this whole Saudi Arabia reason is that Mansoor is even on the card, and Cesaro more than a sacrificial lamb, unfortunately. But I made the pick, and damn it, I'm going to do that, even though I'm probably going to live to regret it. The right thing, Cesaro, because that's the right thing to do for the company and for him. But for Cesaro to win will make the crowd go yay in a environment that is very localized to who and what Mansoor is, and him having that inspirational speech after, and the crowd's losing their minds. Yeah, you're probably right, but I'll stick with it. All right. Then we have the Tag Team Turmoil match with the New Day, the Viking Raiders, Heavy Machinery, Lucha House Party, Kurt Hawkins and Ryder, the OC, Dolph and the B Team. And who are you winning the WWE World Cup for the tag team division?
I'm going to go the New Day, honestly. I think that this is a card that is just to kind of pander to the audience to get behind baby faces. I think the New Day, given all their credentials as, I've lost count now, 5 or 6 time tag team champions. And I think it's maybe something to give Kofi a bit more credibility here after his 9-second embarrassment loss to Brock Lesnar. But hey, I understand why they're going to do it. It's not the worst pick in the world. I prefer someone else, but, just trying to think logically here with my head and not my heart, I would probably just say the New Day.
You're probably right, and I wish I could go with your pick because yours makes much more sense. The only reason I'm going to be different, even though I think you're right, is just to what the hell. I mean, I think I'm just going to choose a team that is within the realm of winnable, but not impossible. So I'm going to go with Ziggler and Rude here, and I think that the reason is because the tag team division need beyond the New Day feel like they're established, and that also winning a World Cup, which means absolutely nothing. What Shane McMahon did with it, he took it and ran with it because he's a heel. It's like winning King of the Ring. It doesn't actually do anything. It's nothing more than bragging rights, which typically this kind of, quote, prize would lend itself to a heel team or heel individual winning. So in that logic, I think Ziggler and Rude could take it and run with it. So you could make the same argument for the B team. I guess they're heel. You can make the same argument for the OC for that matter. But I think Ziggler and Rude would probably get the most out of this and are the right choice. Although, see New Day winning this, I'm just gonna go with Ziggler and Rude to win this match.
That would probably be the best choice because those are two guys who are excellent and I think have the potential to be a really good tag team and even singles competitors if given the proper opportunity. We've seen it with Ziggler, and I think Rude is kind of untapped potential there. I would like to see a team like Ziggler and Rude go with it. WWE has some faith in them as clearly as they had the Raw tag team titles, albeit not for a long time, not a lot of time. But yeah, I just look at this match and I say this is just a prime opportunity for WWE to pander here and just go with the safe pick and a team that has a lot of credentials to back it up. And even though I may not like it, I just think the New Day is the ones that are going to come out ahead here.
Yeah, I think it is too. Again, as a being in the show, and as I said in my show last week, this feels like a glorified house show with a couple of big celebrities coming in, playing in the sandbox with the real guys here. This is nothing relevant going to come out of this. I feel like it's just kind of being in the UK for Raw. It's a show, but it's not really a real show, like, if that means anything. Seth Rollins versus The Fiend. This is a Falls Count Anywhere match for the WWE Championship, and boy, WWE made sure to say that this match cannot be stopped for any reason. That's very interesting that they put that in as a tag or slogan or a marketing line for this match. Kind of a backwards logic from the Cell. This would lead up to the Cell, but now they're going back to, hey, well, maybe next time we'll have a, I don't know, but Falls Count Anywhere match. What do you think about this? Who wins? Is it possible that The Fiend comes out with the championship? Is it the right time? What do you think about it?
This whole thing just upsets me. I don't think we've talked since Hell in the Cell, but they've just ruined The Fiend for me. I don't know how they recover from this and book him as strongly as they were prior to that. This whole thing has been botched. I feel like they've made Rollins go half heel here. They hurt The Fiend's credibility. I know he didn't take a pinfall, but he got destroyed by Seth Rollins. I think that there's no way that The Fiend wins this. They just had a brand split and these two are on separate brands. So how could The Fiend possibly win? It just doesn't make sense. It's predictable for all the wrong reasons. And the only way that now we know that it cannot be stopped for any reason, the only way for it to go is for Seth to win in some crazy match. And the match itself could very well be A++, but the payoff for it is going to be awful. I think the crowd is slowly but surely turning behind Seth which is what they don't want to do. I think they're upset that The Fiend's credibility is getting hurt so early into his run, and after they built him so well over the summer. I'm pretty much disgusted with the whole thing. I'm furious that they've ruined everything that they've done positive with The Fiend, and it's just made me hate Seth, which you shouldn't feel that way towards the biggest babyface in the company. So, but in terms of the one result to cap off my mini rant here, I would say that Seth wins and retains the belt.
So that's funny. That's right. We have not talked since the debauchery that was Hell in a Cell. So without recapping that whole thing, I think we kind of feel the same way. I'm not as completely on the Fiend bar, although significantly down from where we were. Praising he was, praising the WWE has done, that Bray has done, the booking team has done, that they weren't overexposing him, and that they were being careful with how they booked him, who they were booking him with, although never thought he should be with Seth. This is way too early. You cannot put two guys together that both can't lose. You book yourself into a corner and force yourself to choose a that is poor. You either give a crap finish or you have a guy lose that shouldn't lose. It's just there's no other way around it, and they got finish in a match that should have never had any stoppage ever. In the 41 had a Hell in a Cell match for all the insanity, not once did a referee take it upon himself to say, hey, I'm the moral match. That's not right. The safety's being jeopardized. And yet he hits him with a toolbox, hits him with chairs, hits him with ladders. But the sledgehammer to the chair to the skull or whatever it was enough. I mean, the whole thing was a disaster. WWE, so I'm not going to beat a dead horse. But as far as the character overall, it has been, it's going to be a long road back for them to make the Fiend feel like he is special again, to the point of like, oh my God, I can't, oh, here he comes. You hear the lights go off, the special effects, which I think is still an entrance. I love the lantern he carries. That's it's symbolic of who he was. I just think that if they need to start the process here, it should be with a very, very quick match. I don't need the Fiend in a 15-minute match. The Fiend needs to be like 7 minutes less at this point. Less is more. I don't need the red lighting the entire arena. I need him to be there very rarely, be there in a limited capacity when he is there. Less is more. It's always the absence makes the heart grow fonder. It is true every facet of life, and especially in wrestling. So with all that being said, I think ultimately Seth does retain. I wouldn't be surprised if the Fiend wins, but I don't know if it's even the right time to pull the trigger now that he's been cooled down so much. So again, I wouldn't bet you money on this. Could I see Bray winning? Sure, but I think Seth is probably going to and this program needs to just be over because of all of the dark clouds hanging over it from the absolute disaster that was Hell in a Cell.
Yeah, no matter which way they go, I just think the important thing is that they go their separate ways, and I think they have to, given the fact that they're on separate brands. And I think that if Bray were on Raw, I would be more apt to, lean in that direction. But they've just been so adamant about this being a true brand split, even though they botched the whole draft, that they are going to adhere to it. And how could you do that if the Raw World Championship and the Universal Championship is held by a SmackDown superstar? And I don't think they would backtrack and send Bray immediately back to Raw. So in saying all of this, I just don't see how Bray wins, and I'm just, I'm very, upset with the route that they went down. I felt like this whole program was premature between the two, and two characters that could not afford to lose. And yeah, no matter what the outcome is, even though it will likely be Seth Rollins coming out on top, they just have to go their separate ways once this is all done.
That's the key. That's the key for both guys. Everyone was damaged in that match. That's how bad it was. And I don't want to see the Fiend take, 14 time or go through a flaming table with tacks attached to it, falling from, the rafters through of glass and come out on top. Like I don't need to feel like this is superhuman, that to the point of unbelievable, point of laughter. That's I had like an angry laugh watching that match. That's not what I want. It was eye-rolling of how many stomps he took. I never going for there. I totally get what they were going for there, that he's the Fiend, he's not even human, he's, whatever. But we're watching pro wrestling. He's still a mesh in blood. We're not, he's not, even The Undertaker never had a moment like that. The supernatural dead man never had a moment like that. It happened maybe 3 or 4 stomps. It might not have been bad, at least for that part of the match, but the fact that he took 11, and then how many chair shots and all that kind of stuff, it just became like, okay, this is absolutely insanity. So for them to have a Falls Count Anywhere match, a bit fearful that they have to go that road, but maybe they're forced to, because I don't know how they go back. Because if all of a sudden they do the other extreme where the Fiend is down for a significant amount of time, you would say, well, wait a minute, we just saw him take 11 stomps and still stand up. How is he down with 1? So maybe they find that middle there. But I'm fascinated perspective. I'm fascinated of this match, of how it's booked, how long it is, and if they have the same or similar formula with the Fiend being this inhuman spirit, evil spirit, demonic spirit, or whatever he is, if he's booked in a similar as Hell in a Cell.
Yeah, well, from that aspect, I am very intrigued on it because, they've kind of backed themselves into their corner in terms of where they could go in terms of booking. But, I mean, I'm going to watch the match, and I am excited for the match. But I'm really down on what the possible payoff will and can be. But, yeah, I think that it's like you said, like, where do you go from here? He just took an infinity amount of stomps and a bunch of chair shots, sledgehammers, toolboxes, what have you. All he did was throwing the kitchen sink at him. But yeah, I mean, I am a bit in that could possibly go with it, but I mean, I'm just really down on what the possible payoff could be, and that's kind of hurting my optimism for this match.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm fascinated from the booking perspective, not anything else. I'm not fascinated from the perspective of, oh, this is going to be a great matchup. I can't wait to see these two lock up. We've seen it. I didn't even like it before this match even happened, before the disaster of Hell in a Cell. So, alrighty. Well, moving on the line here, the final match of the night. So we have the 20-man Battle Royal, and we have the AJ Styles versus that Battle Royal. So I've been trying to search for the last couple of hours, but even before this show, what are the participants of this Battle Royal? Nobody seems to know. There are no participants listed for this 20-man Battle Royal that will face AJ Styles for the United States Championship. So, I mean, I would assume that some of these guys are probably going to be doing double duty that night, and it might be even some of the Team Hogan or Team Flair participants. I honestly don't even know how to make a prediction without a list of stars listed. I even went on WWE's website. They don't have the names, even a picture of the guys listed. So I don't even know where to go. Would you garner a guess as to who may win and who may face AJ Styles for the championship?
Well, I'm just going to take a guess based purely off of a guy who the crowd likes and who is on the Monday Night Raw roster, so I'm going to go with Buddy Murphy. I think he's a guy that the crowd wants to see. I think he has, as I've used before earlier in the show, he has a lot of untapped potential. So, yeah, I think that Buddy Murphy would be a smart choice here. I think he's a logical choice, not to get redundant there a bit. But, yeah, and he would be a good matchup for AJ Styles and a fresh matchup at that.
I like that. I think that actually could be a sleeper match where they could put on, if given 15 minutes or so, a really, really good match. And yeah, Buddy Murphy, the match that he had with Roman Reigns a few months ago, when I said they could really build on this, of course it went absolutely nowhere, but that was, to me, one of the matches of the year. And I don't say that lightly, and I still believe that. Buddy Murphy's a guy that you organically get behind, and I think that you could tell a story there. Now, would Buddy Murphy win? I don't think so. I don't think Buddy Murphy would defeat AJ Styles, but it would be a match in which he would take him to the limit, as they always say. And I think it could be a match that that gets a lot of "this is awesome" chants, and people are brought into the story based on how good these guys are. And yeah, Buddy Murphy's, again, assuming it's Buddy Murphy, Absolutely. I mean, I honestly don't have another pick because I don't have a better choice than that. If you're going to put these two together, it's got to be a babyface, and it's got to be a guy that can work really well with AJ Styles, and Buddy Murphy fits the bill in both of those spots. So, and again, notably, there are no women on this show. So for all the progressive PR that WWE likes to put out there, they still haven't convinced the Saudi government to say, hey, we're the very first company, and so they can, touted everywhere that the Saudi Arabian government allowed to have women compete in a public forum for any kind of even simulated sport. So that's a notable thing on here too. No women.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just the thing that we're always going to get with.
I'm looking at the perspective of just get past Crown Jewel. I want to get to a pay-per-view that actually matters, which I believe is Survivor Series after this. Am I wrong?
No, I think you're correct. I think Survivor Series is the last weekend of November.
All right, awesome. So to me, there are a lot of WrestleManias you can look back at and point to Survivor Series as the unofficial start to the road of WrestleMania. And I know Shawn Michaels' Undertaker started at Survivor Series before that match happened at WrestleMania 25. There are some Easter eggs that WWE, if they're long-term planning, of course, plants in the Survivor Series show that go all the way to WrestleMania. So I even think it happened with Daniel Bryan and Triple H back in 2014, whenever WrestleMania 30 happened. So there are some things as we get closer and closer. Believe it or not, WrestleMania is, when you start to talk about the matches and potentials, it's not too far away once we get past this pay-per-view.
Yeah, well, this is all the slow build will start. But I mean, I think that Survivor Series is always kind of like a launching point for the WrestleMania season. And for that, I always start to get excited. Then after Survivor Series, that that Royal Rumble's right around the corner. I love Survivor Series, one of the big 4 pay-per-views. So yeah, it's definitely an exciting time surrounding the WWE.
No, it really is. It really is. And boy, there's no shortage of wrestling right now with NXT and AEW and Raw and SmackDown and everything else. I mean, the pay-per-view's now on Thursday. Don't forget, Thursday is the pay-per-view. I keep having to remind myself of that it's actually on Halloween. That's how I'm trying to remember, because Thursday is a really bizarre day to have a pay-per-view, and then you have Friday SmackDown the next night. So I'm looking forward to it. I don't know. Was there anything else that we didn't touch on, Anthony, that you wanted to discuss, whether it was in the card or any other news items coming through?
No, I think we pretty much covered everything here.
Alrighty, awesome. Well, you take care of yourself, and I'll be rooting for your Flyers, right? Are they still down right now?
Yeah, last time I checked, it was 5-2, so not looking too good tonight.
Okay, yeah, it's not looking good. I feel you on the sports, but trust me, it's not just baseball with my Yankees losing. I mean, the entire New York sports genre from head to toe, from our Knicks to the Nets to the Giants to the Jets and the Yankees, like they've all lost in the past week. It has been like a depressing week to be a sports fan at all, no matter what sport you follow in New York. It's been awful, so I feel you.
Yeah, there's always peaks and valleys being a sports fan. You just have to ride the wave. Luckily for me, the NHL season is young, not even a month in, so I'm hoping for brighter days ahead.
Oh yeah, you're just getting started. You're just getting your feet wet. So it goes all the way to, isn't it June is the NHL playoffs, right?
Yeah, the Stanley Cup is usually awarded the second week of June. So, yeah, there's a lot of road left ahead for this season.
Wow. Yeah, you've got like 6 months left. Or no more, 8 months left. Oh, my God. All right. Well, awesome. So, well, Anthony, before you head out, let everyone know where they can find you.
You can find me on Twitter at DiMarco25.
Alrighty. Well, Anthony, as always, it's been a blast. And the next time we talk, we'll be talking Survivor Series and getting past this nonsensical pay-per-view of Crown Jewel and heading into a pay-per-view that I consider, and most consider, one of the top 3, maybe even 4 pay-per-view of the year. So it'll be an exciting time, and I'm looking forward to it just before Thanksgiving. So I'm really looking forward to it, and you enjoy your night.
All right, Matt. Good talking to you, and talk to you in 3 weeks.
All right. Take care.